he gets Jim Crowed. He becomes a cop. He
Correct.
can't sleep amongst his fellow officers. They humiliate him by putting him up in the loft. They sit him under Old Glory as kind of a houseboy within the precinct. I think one of the things that's surprising about Sam Battle's early years on the force is that he's actually policing whites.
He is.
He's primarily in a white police district.
Mm-hmm. They put him to start in a very well-to-do area on the west side of Manhattan by Riverside Drive, and he's essentially a traffic cop. There's not going to be much crime there, so he walks up and down.
In fact, he's in front of William Randolph Hearst's
house, right?
Home.
And he knows better than not to be there because Hearst would look down, and the cops knew you better be on post if he's looking. So he does. He does patrol that neighborhood, and they did have a question: should we send the black guy to Harlem?
Right.
What should we do with him?
Yeah.
So this is where they first put him, and I cannot substantiate this, but I do suspect it, that station house was known as one of the most hostile to blacks, to black citizenry. And
the 32nd.
Well, no, this was on 68th Street.
Okay.
Was known as, and there had really been real police brutality and violence in that station house over the years that Battle would have known about. And I do suspect that they put him there because it was the toughest anti-black station house.
It was like the Justin Volpe
right,
station house of
and
the time.
if anybody was going to drive him out, those guys were.
And I say that, not only to acknowledge what happened to Abner Louima, but there was an acknowledged process of sweeping black clubs and places where African Americans socialized and throwing them into the precinct, turning off the lights, and having them, quote unquote, run the gauntlet.
That's what they would do in that station house. And that was, that was just their practice, that for whatever reason, they would call guys in and do it.
So he ends up in Harlem.
Correct.
And in Harlem, he is literally stationed at 135th and 7th Avenue.
Right.
Today's home of the 32nd Precinct. Is this a moment of pride? Is this racial progress?
It is pride for him that he's now in Harlem. He recognizes that the reason that he is here is that Harlem has changed, and the black population is growing, and the police department recognizes that it will be good to have at least one African American cop there. And he describes the white officers being glad that he was there because people African Americans had begun to resist being arrested by white cops, but they were more amenable to arrest by him.
Something about those Harlem Negroes.
That's right.
That gets in
That's
their
right.
head. Yeah. So the chapter that focuses on the early years of transition from white to black in Harlem are really well done, and you really get a very textured sense of how much the struggle was for whites to let go of Harlem. Absolute resistance.
Absolute.
Covenanted buildings and blocks, block after blocks. No blacks allowed here. No black servants allowed here, but for these conditions. No renters of any kind. And it's a reminder of the very thin and porous line between our historical conception of the racist Jim Crow South in these same years and the liberal, tolerant North. Harlem was not a welcoming place. Headlines, black invaders.
Right.